doing this right? Ow.
Okay, let's do this fucking shit.
Hey guys, Bill's Corner Florida Bass Paddler, and I wanted to do a quick video on the Old Town Topwater 120 PDL and some of the misconceptions I had from going from an Old Town Topwater 120 paddling version to the PDL version. This is not a review. YouTube is loaded with reviews. This is not a comparison to any other brands. I'm sure you can find those on YouTube as well. This video is based on the couple different misconceptions I had of switching from a paddling boat to a pedaling boat. And I don't just mean I can cover more water. Yes, you can cover more water. That's with any pedal drive system out there. That's a no-brainer. I thought the boat would be heavier. I thought the boat would be less stable. I thought the boat would be a little crowded. I thought the boat would just overall be slow. Wrong, 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 and wrong. There are so many things I had misconceptions on in the PDL version. I wanted to share those because maybe I'm not the only one. Again, I'm not a pro angler. I don't see myself as somebody who's a major player in this sport or even a minor player in this sport. I'm just your average Joe who loves to fish on his days off. And of course when the wife will let me. But I also know that I'm your average Joe, and there may be other average Joes out there who enjoy the Topwater and are considering getting the PDL version over paddling version. And I want to touch on a couple of the key things in this video, and also open it up to comments, or maybe you have any other questions that maybe I can answer. Now, this was not all shot in one day. Obviously, I'm not going to take a boat out one day and all of a sudden start making all these assumptions go away and making all these miraculous observations. This was shot over a couple days. Actually, I should say a couple trips. I wish I got to fish every couple days a week. So I wanted to make sure that I touched on the things that I thought would be different other than the obvious, and maybe come across something that I didn't expect, such as the hatch size. One of the things I'll talk about is basically I thought I was going to get the same hull as the standard version with just a big hole in the floor. I was wrong. You're going to see some of those things. So you also have some fishing action mixed in as well, and a lot of it was shot live. It wasn't pre-rehearsed, so there's even a fish or two being caught when I'm talking to you guys during the video, and I didn't want to edit it out because it's real. I like to keep it real. I don't like to put a lot of finesse into things because that's just not who I am. I don't get paid to do this, so I just want it to be enjoyed by everyone, keep it simplistic, and be as believable and real as possible. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the video, and see you later. Angler, so one of the things that really made me want to do this video was I really took for granted what I was going to get with a pedal drive boat. Now granted, I'm going from a Topwater 120 to a Topwater 120 PDL, but there are some assumptions I had about the boat before I got it that were completely inaccurate. First and foremost, the hull. As I'm going to get a review now, the hull I pretty much thought was going to be the same as the Topwater 120. Same front hatch, same space in the floor deck. I was wrong. The hatch is actually bigger. Let's take a look. So one of the things I want to touch on are a couple of differences in the hull that surprised me. Now I understand that there's kayak manufacturers out there like Wilderness Systems who they have a central pod in the front of their kayak, which could be used for the pod or some of their electric drives or some of their pedal drives. You have Hobie, which are 99.9% all pedal driven kayaks with the exception I think of one model. So while I expected the hull to be different on the Topwater PDL to accommodate their drive system, a couple of features I didn't think that would be actually better are, for example, the front hatch. While the front hatch on my Topwater 120 was enough for me to keep my cooler in, the hatch on the PDL was probably about almost 2 inches wider and almost 3 inches longer, so it's a much bigger hatch, which is going to accommodate actually larger coolers or larger wheels. You know, me, again, I just keep my cooler in the front here, but I remember my other kayak, I'd actually push it in there and shove it in there, where this one kind of just goes right in and that's it. So that was a feature that caught me off guard, is to see it had a bigger hatch, so that's definitely pretty cool. So one of the things I thought was the hull weight would be heavier on a PDL version Topwater than a standard Topwater. Come to find out, also I was wrong. That's probably due to the big hole in the floor to accept the drive, but it's about 5 to 6 pounds lighter. But I will say, as far as balance, probably due to the hole in the floor to accept the drive, and the internal controls for the rudder, both the deployment arm as well as the steering, that being in the rear of the kayak, kind of makes it a little heavy in the rear of it. It's not as balanced weight as it is in the standard version. So again, just a little tidbit to keep in mind if that's a question you may have. So wanted to make sure I shared that with you, because that also may aid you in the loading and unloading of it. Again, I have a pickup truck, so loading into the back of my truck is not a problem at all. While bringing it in and out of my house, I kind of had to adjust how I carry the kayak out, with the weight being in the rear more than balanced throughout the kayak. So just want to give you a little bit of heads up. There we go. Not very big, but we'll take it. I just talked about the hatch in that last segment. One thing I mentioned probably a few times, because I'm getting old and repetitive, is expecting the same hull as far as design and shape and things. Now, as shape, it's relatively the same shape if you look at the kayak itself, but the front hatch was bigger. And another thing I thought was really cool was now I have 2 pockets. Granted, the 120 having 1 pocket, I wasn't quite sure why it was only 1 pocket. Although the other side was slightly different of the hole due to the rod holder being up here. But there's 2 pockets in this one, so I can keep my pliers in one, I can keep my scent and my fish grips in another, and so you're getting 2 pockets as well. I thought that was kind of neat. You do not have the rod holder up here, which I did enjoy the standard version. That was easy for when I was unhooking a fish. I can put the rod right here and go ahead and remove the hook or tie on, or whatever the case may be. On the PDL version, the rod holder is actually on the left side, and by rod holder I mean the 3rd flush mount. It's actually here on your left side. It's still kind of back and out of your way a little bit depending on where your seat is positioned. So that is one change. I did like having it in front of me rather than slightly to my side and slightly behind me, but just a very minor difference that really doesn't make or break the decision for me. But it's just a little item I wanted to make sure I touched on in the video, because to some people that might be important. drive itself is nice and smooth. It's very fluid. Feels slightly different when you're going the other way, but I think that might have to do more with the way the propeller is more than the drive itself. But it's very fluid, and it's just really easy to maneuver this boat. I am barely exerting any energy in doing this, and the boat's moving along the shore here, allowing me to fish at just the right speed. Not having any experience with any of the other brands out there, or even Old Town, other models, for example, I can't tell you if this boat is fast for its size or its shape. It's fast enough for me, that I can tell you, and I might be with any pedal drive system. Again, I don't have the desire to go flying through the water like I'm in a race. That might be different if I'm fishing a tournament and someone wants to fish the same area as I do, but overall it has a nice speed to it if I really want to get somewhere quickly. So yeah, I'm really happy with the speed of it. And even still, to pick up momentum, it's not as difficult as I thought it was going to be for a pedal drive system. It's really just, I love it, absolutely love it. I wish I made the switch a long time ago. It's just so much fun. It's so easy, and anyone can do it. So yeah, do it. If you've seen any of my previous videos, one of the features I really enjoyed about the kayaks I previously owned was the open deck space. The one thing I really like about the Old Town Topwater 120 PDL is, granted I don't have all the deck space I had in the Topwater for obvious reasons, I actually have a little bit more room than what I thought I would have. Now that was one of the things I really thought was going to hinder my enjoyment of the kayak before I got into it, but again, while there's not as much space as the non-PDL kayak, there's actually more room than I really thought there would be. So it's really helped enhance my enjoyment of using it. I don't feel cramped, I'm very comfortable in it, and I still have some room to do the things I need to do, such as unhooking a fish, re-rigging a line, or perhaps just relaxing and sitting cross-legged and having a little bite to eat during the day. So I was really surprised at how much room I had in the cockpit area of this kayak. It's a nice peacock. Ooh. I think. Yep. Beautiful peacock. Nice fish. One thing I really had to adjust to was boat positioning. The drive in this boat needs about 6 to 8 inches of clearance from the bottom in order to not hit anything, or to drag along the bottom, possibly damaging your prop or scratching up your drive. With my Topwater 120, I could park it wherever I wanted to, especially when I was fishing those murky areas for snakeheads. Now with the PDL system, I really have to be a little bit more mindful of where I'm parking the kayak when I'm fishing for them. Now granted, you can pop the drive up into the boat if need be, and it is a very sturdy unit. But again, someone like me wants to ensure that I don't do anything unnecessary to possibly break the prop, which would ruin a fishing day. So that is one thing to keep in mind when going from a Topwater 120 or a 106 to the PDL versions, is ensuring you're in enough water to make sure the drive is not hitting the bottom or getting tangled up in structures such as rocks or weeds or anything of those hazards that are out there in the water. So just that's one thing to keep in mind. It's something I've adjusted to. I've only had one issue with getting weeded up around the prop, which I cleaned out rather easily by pulling the drive up into the boat, but it's still something to take into consideration when going from a paddle version to a pedal version. Okay, that might be the same one. Decent bass. Not huge, but decent. Pedaling. How hard do I have to pedal to get the boat to go? Surprisingly, not hard at all. Your standard bicycle pedaling is enough to make this boat go as it needs to. You don't have to overexert yourself unless you really want to go fast. But then again, there's no need for that anyway unless you're in harm's way of a storm. So just enjoy the boat for what it is, how easy it is to maneuver with the pedals, and enjoy it because you can cover a lot more water with a boat with a pedal drive system. We have a fish on. Ooh. Got him. Man, they fight. Look at that pig. Beautiful fish. Let's get him back in the water. I had really narrowed it down to about 3 different models of pedal drive kayaks based on overall look as well as price, weight, and overall, as I mentioned earlier, space in the cockpit with the drive. Again, I like to be comfortable. I don't like kayaks with pods, even though I owned one. And really what it came down to for me was owning a Topwater 120, enjoying the boat for what it was. It fit my needs. So basically I took the approach of, if it's not broke, don't fix it, but put a pedal drive in it. And that's what it came down to. Now again, that's not to say anything bad about the other models out there. I don't have any experience with them. And I was open to trying those experiences, but again, I enjoyed my Topwater so much that making the transition from the 120 to the 120 PDL was just a no-brainer for me. And I'm really glad I made the change to a pedal drive system. I'm fishing places I wouldn't normally fish due to the ability to cover a lot more water, not exerting too much energy to do so, and just really allowing me to enjoy the sport even more than I already did. So if you're on the fence about getting a Topwater PDL, whether it be the 106 or the 120, and you currently have one of the non-PDL versions, trust me, you won't be disappointed. These are great boats. They're made solid, and the enhancements of your fishing experience far exceed any of your expectations. So I'm Bill Sikora, Florida Bass Paddler. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to comment below. And if you have any comments of your own on this boat, by all means post away. Thanks for watching, guys. Tight lines.